We do it all. The future of radio is here. New era TT Radio. Net Radio. Let's go.
Hello?
I remember when you children were weak and hungry. I took you to my bosom, fed you my oil. And even when you took and wasted and left me drained, there was always love for you in my soil. Even when my older children, they tried to shame me, setting no rules for the younger ones, bringing such grief and sadness into my household. In the end, they're still my daughters and sons. I will always be there for you. No matter what you do, whatever joy or pain that you are going through, I will always be there for you. I will be always there for you.
All right, everybody, good morning to you. And yes, we will be here for you. We are here for you right here on New Era TT Radio. Always here for you. This is where we go on the inside. And courtesy of the Foundation for Human Development, this is where we talk with Steve Williams. He's been on for a couple of weeks. Yeah, and it's good to have him back at the inside today. So, Steve, how are you doing? Good morning to you.
I'm doing fine. You know, sometimes you really need a couple of weeks off to actually enjoy yourself a little bit. That's my business. I went to a wedding in Vancouver, Canada. It was my niece. After all these years, she finally decided to get married. And I thought I should go, you know, because when you're getting older, you should enjoy these moments.
Yes, of course.
It was a lovely outdoor wedding, lovely weather. So they were lucky to have such good weather. And quite a wonderful gathering of family. That doesn't happen very often, you know. My two children with their spouses were there. Everybody who connected one way or the other from Trinidad went up, you know. And, you know, two sides of the family, you know, I don't want to fuss about it, but it was black and white. And wonderful mixture, I must say. Wonderful opportunity to talk and relax and enjoy. And they had a wonderful cocktail hour where you met everybody else. Then you had the dinner separately. And then there was a lunch the day before, for all those who were coming from abroad and so on. Very nice, you know.
Yes.
Especially, it was enjoyable, I must say. So I felt refreshed. I felt renewed. And then I'm back. Unfortunately, I think in 3 weeks' time, I have another week to go by my brother in New Jersey, because we always meet in August. The brothers would meet for a few days, you know. So it won't be long, but I'm not going to miss out on that either, because we're getting older and you never know when. You know,
These gatherings, as you get older, they become very important.
Absolutely. So that was my little sojourn away from Sir Charles.
Well, I must say we missed you, Steve. We did. And I'm happy that you are back, and
Yes.
You know, well, let's see what we can make of it today.
Yes, we'll make of it today. Today we are looking at envy, and you know, this is a good time to bring it up because you see certain things when people gather together. And I thought, you know, I saw the little bits and pieces of envy in the family itself. And I thought, you know, maybe I'll talk a little bit about this, you know, and where's this coming from and how we can heal some of that, because envy destroys the inner self. The inner self is what matters most because that produces the outer self. But let's go through it a little bit. So, it's a natural emotion. It's not something to be afraid of. It's not something that we could get rid of. It's a natural emotion that we all have, envy. And we're all conditioned, excuse me, we're all conditioned to be envious, all of us. Our capitalist system that we live in teaches us how to be envy because it's one winner takes all. So we have to be envious of the person who wins. We're competitive by nature from the time we're in school. Um, and this child is doing better than this one, and the teacher gives this one praise more than that one. Everybody else feels a little bit of envy inside, because envy is basically trying not getting what you want from somebody else. And I'll talk a little bit about that. Our supply and demand system that we have in the country, in the world, teaches us to be envious. Or advertisements that bring us all this information every single day about this shoe and that brand name and this music and this kind of meal you should eat and this is the way you should actually dress and so on. We create the system creates a lack in us. The lack says I'm not enough. And from the time you grow up with that concept inside of you that I am not enough, there's envy that looking right around the corner. It's a natural emotion that flows, because you're looking at other people who think or project the self as being enough. So you're envious. You're envious of the man who has the BMW and the Audi, and you pushing a little Tida, and you say, well, I wish I had a BMW, I wish I had a Tida. And you get a little envious of the person who has more than you have. So sometimes we end up allowing the envy to destroy us. Many times we work through it, and many people have survived very comfortably because they have been able to work through it. Others cannot work through it. They simply don't have a way of managing that emotion as manifesting ill will inside of them, hurt, anger, resentment building inside all the time. So there's a gentleman called Rene Girard, a big, he's a great social theorist of the 20th century, and he had a strong theory about this. He was advancing the fact that a lot of the violence in the world today, or the problem of violence in society, has a lot to do with envy. And I'll take some of the clues from him. You see, um, he points out in a way how envy shows itself in us. Okay, one way is that we feel threatened by the talents and the achievements, and for a lot of women, and the beauty of others. We feel threatened. When you feel threatened by someone else's talent or someone else's beauty, there's the emergence of that deep-seated envy which leads to resentment that comes in. We feel that. Okay. um in essence, people feel threatened and diminished by other people's greatness, and we find ourselves nitpicking and looking for flaws. You ever find yourself doing that? That you're so envious of the other person's achievement or the other person's well-being that you start to nitpick and you start looking for flaws. That is what happens a lot of the time. And so we don't need sometimes to do that, but it's almost automatic in us because we're not enough. We just don't feel enough. So let me ask you some questions for those of you who are listening out there, and how we take an inventory of ourselves. How often in a given day do you actually praise another as opposed to criticizing another? Stop and think for a moment. You have your day ahead of you. Today is your day. You get up and so on. If all your energy your words keep coming up as criticism of a person, even the person you're living with, if you find that you always finding the picking and so on, check yourself. Ask yourself the deeper question: what it is about this person I'm envious about? Because you have a choice. I can thank you for simply being there. I could say, "Oh boy, thank you. You really did a great job. Thank you for putting that for giving me that cup of coffee this morning." That's your choice. The person gets up, makes a nice cup of coffee, brings it for you. And you say, "Oh God, thank you. Oh God, I really needed this morning. Thanks so much." Or you didn't put enough milk in this. Or I don't like my coffee kind of warmish. So get it, do a next batch and hot it over on something like that. If you find yourself like that, and that's where you are, and that's your modus operandi on a daily basis, something is not cooking well inside of you. And some of that may be referred to envy of one form or another. How often do you nitpick and why? How often? Why do I experience a secret kind of inner glee and joy when I hear about the fall from grace of a certain person? Think about it. You have a brother, you have a sister, you have a sibling, and the sibling says, "Boy, you know something? I got a promotion, um, and I'm doing well in my job. I'll be getting an extra few $1,000s well per month." And just examine your emotion at that moment when you hear that news. And if that emotion is one of, "Oh gosh, we're glad for you. You really work hard. You deserve that." If that is a natural emotion coming out of you, then you're in good stead. If it comes out of your mouth, "Well, you get it, yeah, but what happened? They didn't have anybody else to give the job to, or what? Or, sometimes, you have contact. Is contact give you that?" So when you start to nitpick and you start to drag it down, you're envious. And you feel that you have to bring the person down so that you can feel well about yourself. And that has been the destruction of so many families, so many siblings, in terms of sibling rivalry. And you have your brother, you have your sister, somebody does well, somebody is doing well, the child as well. Where your son passed for, he passed a Fatima, and you say, "Okay, I'm glad for him," out of the tip of your tongue, right? But you envy that your son did not pass a Fatima. Your son passed for St. James Secondary, or your son passed for Tranquility, and so on. But there's an envy. And then it multiplies. It's like a virus. You begin to pick on all kinds of things all the time, inward, outwardly, going in and out of your life. So many a times we have to recognize that the conflict or conflicts that we create within the context of the family, they have a lot more to do with our inner envy and resentment than the actual story itself. And sometimes, let's look at it. I grew up in a family, and I ask myself that question sometimes. I have two brothers and one sister. I had another brother, he died. So of the two brothers, they both become doctors, and not doctors, real expert, top of the line in their field. Um, One doctor, he got an award. He worked at Yale. Um, he was the one who was famous, that was able to save um, babies in the womb for something. It was a big, big public thing, and so on. The other one is a huge director of safety and so on, and manages a few hospitals well and so on. And I did not achieve to that. Am I envious? I asked myself that question once because I say, well, they've done so well. The same brother I stayed by in Vancouver, and the size of the property and the size of the house and so on, compared to my house where I have in Trinidad. And I say to myself, am I envious of that? Am I envious of his achievement and having done well? And I came up with the answer no. And I felt good about myself because I have my own achievements and I have done well too. And I've done well, not as well as they would have done because they have been in professions that generate a lot of wealth. But I have done well because I have been able to manage myself and enjoy a wonderful relationship with my children. So I have done well. But envy can creep in. For if for one moment I had felt or I feel uncomfortable within the context of myself, then I would be nitpicking and saying, this and that, and he this, and he's showing off, and we drove in this car, and you're trying to bring somebody down. That is what it would have been. It would have been a strained relationship. But we get along well. We're fantastic. We call each other every week and so on, so we can have conversations and updates on what's happening in each other's families and so on. So really and truly, the way we do it, the way we behave, it takes away from the fact of being living with resentment, living with anger. Okay. And in relationships, especially husband and wife, partner and spouse, partner and partner, whatever kind of relationship you have, envy destroys such relationships. And I'll tell you why. Um, and I have many examples. I used to teach adult education. And one of the things I noticed is that at the beginning in September, when people would come to register, we'd have a whole lot of people registering, but they're mainly women. So women are always thinking of advancing themselves academically and so on. And by October, nearly 10-15% would have dropped out. And they would come and they would say to me, Mr. Williams, I want to continue, but my partner, my husband, my man, whatever it is, start making a lot of noise and he's not happy. He say, who will look after the children? And how come I take all this time to go and study? And if I go and look for a man in the classroom and so on. And they had to leave. And they left sad because they saw opportunities to advance themselves. They saw opportunities to do well and to get their passes and so on, but they could not. And that was pure envy on the part of their partners who could not stand the fact that their partner was going to do well, was going to do better, may have been able to get a better job, and may have been able to earn more money, and so on. So it destroyed through their whatever their comments were, whether the children needed the mother and who will help with the homework and who will wash the clothes and all kinds of foolishness. All these things came up simply because you had to find a way to terminate the advancement of your partner. That has happened in many, many relationships, especially with the women who want to do well. And it's sad, it's pathetic because of the insecurity of the male. And there lies the reasons for envy. The major reasons for envy is insecurity. The insecurity of the person or persons who simply can't feel good enough about themselves to encourage another person who is close to them to do well. And it spreads, it's like a virus. It spreads, it destroys, So it's deep insecurity. And so we have envy over material goods, we have envy over beauty, you know, status, achievement. A person gets a job that is bringing in more status and bringing in more this um, and it destroys the other partner because I should be getting that too. And you feel you're better than me because you're earning more money than me now. And it destroys relationships when people are that deeply insecure within themselves. So part of what we have to do, we have to recognize that we must first of all must admit in ourselves when we feel that way. So the way forward is simply not fighting and hiding it and bringing it out in other ways by our attitudes and our behaviors, but simply admit it. Say, listen, I'm feeling a little bit envious of this person, and you say it. Once you bring it out, it does not manifest on the inside. It does not stay and become a sore on the inside. So once you get it out of the way, then you can talk about ways in which you can do well. And you can remind yourself of your own inner achievements, your own well being, your own fact. When you fight over things like beauty and money and so on, and who has more and who has less and so on, with your family and your friends and so on, you create that kind of tension. And when tension exists within the context of a home, context of a family, there is little attention being paid to the needs of each other. And tension destroys. You can't laugh together. You're only hoping that the person won't call you, and you're hiding and you have nothing to say. And I ain't talked to her for 6 months. And people say, I ain't talked to my brother for a whole 2 years. We ain't talked for 2 years. And as though it's a joy, because of the tension. The person I go to get my hair cut and so on, he keeps talking about the big, huge it's in court now. And it's envy. He's done well. His brother has not done so well, and it's envy and hate and threatening each other and so on. And it's in the court. It's in court. Why? What is that about? It's all about envy, nothing else. But they're unable to feel good within themselves. And that's what we have to do. We have to feel good. We have to be blessed with ourselves. We have to be satisfied. We have to understand that what we have is what we've been given. We've made the best use of it, even if we have done some things that are not so good in a sense, and we have wasted some of our resources and so on. Okay, we're not perfect, but you're okay. And so let's not allow the emotion of envy to reach deep into our souls and destroy souls. And that reminds me of the prodigal son, the example of the elder brother, who couldn't understand that the young one went off and squandered, had all these nice women and had a good time, and he came back begging. And the father said, "Come, I want you." And guess what? The elder was filled with envy because he killed the fattest calf and he gave it to celebrate the return of a Nowarian, the return of a sinner, the return of a person who gone and do what he wants to do and enjoy life. He followed the rules. He stayed. He worked hard. So he was filled with envy, almost to destroy himself. And the father said, "No, everything I have is yours. That can't be done. Everything I have is yours. So don't worry about it. But your brother has returned, and I need to celebrate the return." It's a different way of seeing the world. Okay, we don't see the world that way because we're human. God sees it that way. We don't see it that way. But we have to grow to that way of trying to begin to see what it is all about and how we need to kill and destroy that emotion of envy within us. Otherwise, we will destroy ourselves eventually. Pause there.
All right, tell people. This is where you can get in on the show. 281-1315 868, all depends on which part of the world that you are in. But you can get in on the show now. We're talking with Steve Williams of the Foundation for Human Development, talking about envy and what it does, to individuals. Um, so you can call us now. The lines are open to you, and while we wait on any calls that may come through, um, Steve, it's a lot of self-examining, a lot
Mhm.
of self-growth
Yeah.
that needs to take place
Mhm.
um, where life is concerned. The sad thing about it is that those sometimes that kind of growth and that kind of self-awareness only comes when something goes wrong. In most
Yes,
cases,
absolutely.
very few
Yes.
people
Hmm.
when they are being envious and jealous of persons, um,
Hmm.
and doing things in that kind of way, somehow just don't seem to feel as if they're doing anything wrong. At least that's the way it comes across to me.
Yeah.
And it's only if something goes wrong, you get in some accident, you have to do some serious surgery,
Yes.
something
Yes.
goes
Yes.
stale. Yeah, yeah, and that seems to be the only thing that brings people around to some
Yes,
of
it
these things.
is. It is. It is the truth. One author says there's either great love or great suffering that brings you
Hmm.
around. And I tend to agree with that. The middle ground, you don't pay attention. You don't pay attention.
Yeah,
When you are deeply, deeply, deeply in love with someone without condition, you have a tendency to pay very close attention to their needs, to their wants, to how you could better their lives, and the two of you working like two wonderful coins together. You're rubbing against each other in a beautiful way, and that makes it easy. Great suffering now also is the other way around when
yes, yes.
pain and anger and irritability and losing life and hospital and those kinds of things take over. You see people who talk to people for years say, "Oh God, my brother in hospital, he get a stroke, let me go, I'm going and look for him." 10 years you didn't talk to the man. You get a
Yeah,
stroke, you're going to look
yeah,
for him.
yeah, yeah. What do you want to look for the man now for? Well,
That's your point.
good morning to you.
Good morning, Sir Charles and Mr. Steve.
Morning,
Good
Junior.
morning.
Sir Charles, really put some down and look for your brother.
If you ain't come and
Oh,
look for me,
God.
Junior, I tell you the frank man. If you ain't come and look for me for 10 years, and you have not been treated with me fairly for a long time and all those kinds of things, no, no, no. If I get to know the
Sir
hell, don't
Charles,
come and
with
look
the
for me.
person, all right, so with the person and come and look for you in 10 years for. No, that is a, no, that's a question that it depends on what is the circumstance, what is the situation, right? So, like, even
Mhm.
though now I'm listening to Mr. Steve and I'm listening the different explanation for he given for envy, right? So,
Mhm.
Mr. Steve, right now, and I hear what you're saying, right? But let me examine because these is real things that happen in life, and as we speak, somebody going through them, right? Right now,
Yes.
based on the different scenarios that they would have highlighted, right?
Mhm.
And now I am listening to you, and yes, it is in truth, and it's truth in some cases because I've seen women want to elevate themselves onto men, and men would do anything because they don't want the woman elevate because the fear that the
Mhm.
woman will leave them.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
No,
Yes.
no,
That's true.
no, no. I've seen where men would have allowed their wife to elevate themselves, and the
Mhm.
woman now didn't leave them because now she feel that, hey, I am too professional, and you are no longer, you're not in my category. That real issues that I
Mhm.
see play out, right?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
you ask yourself now, you ask yourself the question now, even all also have come across men that want to go and elevate themselves. So I was sitting in a class with a man that was much older than me. At that
Mm-hmm.
time, I think I was about 35 in a class doing doing a course, and the gentleman, he was about in his, you can say 50, like 55, I think so, and he
Right.
was doing the course too, and I am missing for a while. And when you
Mm-hmm.
investigate, is because his wife, she belittled the man so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we won out, and I mean, it was a struggle. So I know you talk about the man with the woman, but it was also vice versa. Now
Yeah.
we hear
Yes.
more. We
Yeah.
now we hear more about the men, the men are belittling and lower the women to, because again, fear of, right, of not wanting they feel a woman that is educated could be a problem, but the envy thing,
Mm-hmm.
that is real, and you can't get away. I don't think you can get away from yourself, and as I say, and you talk about in the earlier part where you talk about if you find yourself always putting on or nitpicking and not
Mm-hmm.
trying to encourage somebody, right? Now one question that when he was talking about that, right, is that uh, is is it that the person want to be so, or is it a learned behavior? Right? Because in even talking with people that you come across that are like that, right?
Yeah.
When you go into the root of the problem, is where they see their parents doing, or them grow up in that kind of,
That's true.
setting. So
That's
it's
true.
it's almost now they grow up, and instead of, sometimes, instead of trying to, and sometimes they might nitpick, they have all the
Mm-hmm.
good intention, but as they say,
Mm-hmm.
right, as I just always say, if you could criticize, also when the person, you see the person do good to,
Mm-hmm.
compliment the person, and also equally let them know that they did
Mm-hmm.
well, because there just can't be
Yes.
one side where you just
Yes.
as
Mm-hmm.
a critic, and when the person do good, you hear nothing from the no.
Mm-hmm.
Compliment the person if you
Mm-hmm.
really genuinely care about the
Mm-hmm.
person, and in life about progress. In
Yeah.
life about progress, Mr. Steve, I don't know, right? And I don't know if it's our culture, and I wanna say our culture in our Trinidad and people in our Trinidad and Tobago, you would hear people say, "Hey, I'm glad for you," but
Yes.
you see that with your interest thought that they're really glad for you, right? Because sometimes I you say it's envy, but to make it, boy, I really glad because I hear people say, "Boy, I'm glad for people," and in the same breath
Mm-hmm.
when something comes, yeah, and they're playing big thing, and are we genuinely glad for people? And
Yeah.
yes, we should be genuinely glad for people when people are doing well. I was just say this one thing before I go,
Mm-hmm.
and even because like how we're talking about sometimes people in like even like in the husband and wife, right? If
Mm-hmm.
in our family settings, right? We're talking about husband and wife in our family setting. If one person is elevating their self, I think it should be beneficial not just only to that one person, but it should be beneficial to the family, whichever side is elevating themselves. Because again, that that could be wealth. I mean, not only talking about money, but the family is making progress,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, I've seen people. The good side about it too, I've seen people, one person go and elevate themselves, and when they elevate themselves, they encourage, and the other person go and elevate themselves too.
Yeah.
So it's a hundred bickering, but hey, we helping each other, because at the end of the day, it's not a I thing or a me thing. It's about development, and we growing. So,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. King, Doctor, listening, so Charles,
Yeah, man.
blessing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks, Junior. Thanks very much for that contribution. Yeah, um, that is a beautiful aspect of family.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, most families are not like that.
Yeah.
There's always this reality that is kick back into
Yep.
uh,
Yep.
thing. And most people in a perfect world, yeah, but boy,
It is imperfect.
sometimes
There's so
even people
there's
that you
so
feel doing it well, when you get this when you get the backstory, a ball,
That's the truth. That's the truth. And there's so many parents, mother and father, husband and wife living in the same house, envious of the children. They fight for the children's love. They put themselves against one another. They put the children against one parent. Well, I know about your mother and so and so, so and so and so, but and all that is sometimes a contest. Sometimes the mother sees how close the daughter is to the father, and she finds all kinds of ways to break it up. Whole marriage broke up over that. Um, so that, and then she goes to court and she fights and she wins the custody and so on. And then she says, "I will show them. I'll show them. That is my child."
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
so many, and it's all envy, and nobody acknowledges that in the journey. Nobody acknowledges it.
We have a caller there.
Yes.
So good morning.
Mr. Good morning. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Few programs I just call into on this station. This is one. So if you're not around, you leave it down to one. Well, I have experienced envy, but here I'll give you two sides to envy for me. First, my personal experience based on how I conduct my life.
Yes.
I've been handling my own money and things from since I very, very young. But I had a protocol, like I never liked gifts. Right? And I used to explain that to my bio family and others why I don't like this. I don't like people making a decision to me about what they think is good for me. Right? I want to make that decision for myself.
Sir.
And I really want to work out things and get things my way. So I used to say when I was small, when I earn something with my own labor or talent, I'm sure about how I get it. Everything else, I have a question mark on. So I never really want what other people have like that because I don't know how they get it. Right? So I'm not interested. So if you have $1 million car and I have a bicycle, I think my bicycle worth more than everything else because I'm sure how I get this bicycle.
Yes.
That's how I used to feel. So that protected me in a way, that mindset from looking at what people have because it didn't used to bother me.
Right.
But here's how I made what I perceived to be envy at times work for me. Because I was always looking for opportunities and for criticisms so that I could improve, I realized people who I perceived to be envious were valuable to me then. Because what they do sometimes when they're communicating is exaggerate your perceived shortcomings.
Yeah.
So I used to take off the fluff, but examine to see what element of what they're saying making sense. I'm trying to work on that. You know what I mean? Sometimes I ain't even successful until many, many years later. But I used to find I getting more from people who like that than people who claiming to be a friend, which I find was mostly useless people because they're not critical. But an envious person, if you do it scratch, they're going to magnify it and say, "Yo, you're burning down the whole place."
Yes.
If you had the sense to filter it out, you can disregard all the fluff, but take the kernel, the element that is saying that has some truth in it, and try and improve yourself with it. You may not be able to do it right away like me. Sometimes it took me years to work to fix a character flaw. Right? Many, many, many years. And I probably have many more to fix. Right? But it came from people who were like that. And I say I can make that work for me. You know what I mean? So people need and get the news to bother me because they're not really controlling how I live my life, how I get what I want. Nothing. But you can still take people's worst qualities and make it work to benefit you if your intention is to improve you. That is the point I want to make. Right? Not everything they say is true, but if you dig hard enough, There's always some little kernel of truth in every nonsense people say. Anyhow,
Yeah.
pleasant day, nice to have you back.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mr. Hotep. And I can understand that concept because in a lot of ways I kind of work in that same kind of frame, maybe not
Mhm.
examining so much the envy, but
Mhm.
when when people do things, especially when I'm
Mhm.
concerned that they feel that can hold you back, push you down, mash,
Yes.
I tend to use that force to drive me to improve myself.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Many people have made it in the world today because of that. That exact using
Yeah.
that
So,
force.
so all who are envious, jealous, all who bad-minded and want to do wrong, I just welcome them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it makes
Yeah.
me work harder.
Turn the energy around, turn it around,
Yeah,
and you do well with it. Yes, turn it around.
yeah.
Excellent.
Steve, thank you very much for a fantastic show, for
Mhm.
being back with us. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for making the effort and being here.
Yep.
And tell people how to get in contact with you. So in case they
Yeah.
need your service at any point in time.
Okay, so we're physically located in Cascade, 36 Cascade Road, Cascade, and we can be reached on our Gmail system by foundationhd@gmail.com. So you can send us an email, or you can give us a WhatsApp message for 826500.
Children will be
Okay, thank you very
free.
much. Looking forward to
Okay.
talking to you again
God,
next Wednesday.
Life was
Yeah.
so
God
precious.
willing. Yeah, take care. Alrighty.
And even when you took and wasted and left me
So,
dressed,
people, this has been on the
it's not for
inside with
you.
Steve Williams. Good to have him back this week. And
Even when
stay with us.
the
Of course,
children
from here on in, we're running up to news time. So we
set
got a whole lot of good music to play for you between now and
arms,
especially after lunch. DJ Otto is going to be on the inside today. It is Reggae Matic Wednesday. So you
household,
got a whole lot of good reggae music coming
to
at
my
you. Huh?
daughters and
All the way up until 4 o'clock.
I will always be there for you. No matter what you do, whatever joy or pain that you are going through, I will always be there for you. I will be, I will be, I will be always there for you. Everybody always call me a blessed mother. Mama dream